This is the Louie T Network.
Draft Zone. Draft Zone.
Welcome.
Draft
You are in the lab
Zone.
room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on this program, 2014 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. And we're using the Who's Next format, which simply means be the first to leave a comment at the bottom of this very video and all the subsequent videos stating the team that you want to see next and the phrase next. So you need three components to have the team that you want to see next be next. And those three components are: first, be the first, right? Be the first person to leave a comment in the comment section. Number two, have the phrase next be somewhere in that comment. And number three, have the team's name that you would like to see in that same comment. So that's all you got to do. Be first, leave a comment stating next and the team that you want to see next. That's what the Who's Next format is all about. So who are we talking about today? We're talking about the Detroit Lions, aka the Detroit Lions. And so what we do here in the 2014 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series is grade out every single team's NFL draft by giving each and every single player a grade using our baseball grading scale: single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the Draft Wrap-Up Series, as we cannot tell how these players will pan out. Now, we're going to do something a little different here on this particular program and moving forward. What we're going to do is I'm going to start incorporating bonuses for picks. And so how you earn bonuses depends on how you draft. If you get two or more of a particular type of score, so let's say you get 2 home runs, that will yield you a home run bonus. If you get 3 triples, that would yield you a triple bonus, and so forth and so forth. So we'll start incorporating bonuses into the scores of the team's draft so that it kind of balances out these scores and gives us a clear delineation between teams and their scores. Some people had some issue with some of the scores and how all of the scores kind of bleed together. So I'll make sure that I give exact scores for each and every team's draft. And you'll know just how well I think a team did or did not do in their 2014 NFL draft. So with that being said, and thank you for those who commented and kind of made me reevaluate the scoring system. Thanks. So we move on to the NFL draft in 2014 of the Detroit Lions. Here's a team that struggled mightily on the defensive side of the football. They get rid of their head coach. You're thinking maybe they're going to lean defense with their first pick, maybe their second pick. Let's see what the Detroit Lions elected to do in this draft. And so look at this Lions draft. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 selections for the Lions. And at 10, I thought for sure it was going to be defense, with new head coach Jim Caldwell coming in and Terrell Austin taking over this defense. And this defense really struggling a season ago to force turnovers. I thought for sure corner was going to be at the top of the list for this Lions football team. But I was wrong. In the first round, 10th overall selection, tight end out of North Carolina, Eric Ebron was the selection, and Easy E was on the board. And I said to myself at the time, because I heard there was a lot of rumors about the Lions potentially trading up to get Sammy Watkins. And then you heard also, in the back of my mind, I was hearing Ebron at 10. And I'm like, no, it doesn't sound right. Ebron's name surfaced with the Lions early in the process, and then it kind of resurfaced late. But in between, all the talk there was either for an offensive lineman, a corner, or even a guy like C.J. Mosley there. But it was never, to me, a situation where Ebron was the right pick. I thought, okay, if you don't re-sign Brandon Pettigrew, then maybe Easy E is the pick at 10. But when you re-signed Pettigrew and you saw the effect that Fourier had on the offense last year, I didn't see a need for another tight end. But obviously, the Lions said, hey, you can never have enough targets offensively. And we feel like this is a guy that we can't pass up. He's a can't-miss prospect that's going to allow us to take our offense to the next level. And I don't have a problem with the player that you selected. I just have a problem with the pick. And I have a problem with the pick because you didn't need a tight end here. You wanted a tight end. Now, if we're going best player available on the board, fine. I don't have a problem with that. But to me, the Detroit Lions clearly have a need at corner. I think that there's a clear need there. Now, I don't know how the Lions feel about their corners. I don't know how they feel about their cornerback situation. And to be honest, when you get a new coaching staff in there, it's really hard to tell what anybody thinks because they inherited these players. They didn't draft them. They didn't bring them in. So maybe they had a chance to evaluate film and say, hey, these guys aren't that bad. They just need to tweak this and they need to tweak that. And if I can get them into my system, maybe they'll fit a little bit better than the last system that they were in under the last regime. And so you don't know what the thinking is with the coaching staff. I'm just going off of strictly what I saw in 2013. And so I thought corner was the pick here. But let's talk about Ebron. Forget about all of that extra stuff. Let's talk about what the Lions did do. And at 10, they got Eric Ebron, Easy E for me. And this guy is a fluid athlete. He makes it look easy at the tight end position. He's a specimen, the likes of which we haven't seen since Vernon Davis in the first round at the tight end position some years ago. And the way the Detroit Lions look at him, they look at him as a hybrid Jimmy Graham type of player that you split out as a wide receiver and you take advantage of one-on-one matchups, whether it be a safety, whether it be a linebacker, whomever that player is trying to guard him in the slot. If you split him out, you can put him out wide, whatever the case may be. You can line him up at tight end. You can put him in the backfield as an H-back and then split him out. They're going to use this guy like a chess piece. They're going to use him much like the New Orleans Saints used Jimmy Graham. And he's going to be a matchup nightmare for most teams. I mean, most teams don't have a safety or a linebacker that can cover a guy that can move the way that Eric Ebron moves. It's just that simple. The guy is a freak at the tight end position. And I remember the first time, give you a little story and then we'll move on. The first time I saw Eric Ebron was a Thursday night. And Thursday night football for college football has been diminished greatly by the NFL moving into the Thursday night football game. And so you don't get as much attention to that Thursday night college football game as you used to. And I happened to be channel surfing because, again, Thursday night football was on. They went on commercial. I needed something to fill my interest in that, 2-minute slot. And so I moved over to ESPN, and North Carolina was playing Miami on Thursday night football. And I remember people talking about Ebron, but, again, I'm not a big college football guy until I have to be. And so I hadn't really gotten into fully, going in and studying these guys and really looking and picking out players. And so that was my first exposure to Ebron. And so I was like, oh, well, since I'm here, I might as well check this guy out. And the first play that I saw was an out route to Ebron. He catches it, he makes a guy miss, and he takes off for about 67 yards for a touchdown. And I'm like, man, that wide receiver, he's pretty good. You know, that was a pretty good play to make that guy miss, to explode, use the explosion to accelerate up the field and outrun the rest of the defense. And I said, you know what? I'd like to check this guy out, check some tape out on him, because I could use a 6'3" receiver that can run that fast. And then I found out he was a tight end, and I said, what? I said, man, that is going to be an elite prospect in this upcoming draft, because you don't see tight ends doing the type of things that he does on the football field. And the thing that struck me watching film on this guy is he makes things look easy. It looks effortless. Now, is he a supreme run blocker? No. And the saying in the NFL is the next great blocking tight end will be the first. And you can add him to the list of guys that are going to come in and not be adept at run blocking, but that's not his game, okay? You've got other tight ends on your team, Pettigrew and Fourier, that can block. Use those guys to do that. When he's in the game, you want to throw him the football. You want him out there winning one-on-one matchups, and you want to get the football in his hands, and he'll do the rest. Yeah, just move out of the way and watch this guy work. He's a technician. He's a freak. He's a beast. And in the first round, 10th overall selection, tight end out of North Carolina, Eric Ebron. You know what this is. I don't have to explain this to you. It is a home run for the tight end prospect out of North Carolina. He's going to come in, and the Detroit Lions hope that he's going to change the game in the Motor City and give them another target that teams are going to have to respect from 20 to 20. Not just in the red zone, but from 20 to 20, they're going to have to respect Eric Ebron and give some respect to the middle of the field, which will open up the top of the defense and the edges to a guy like Happens to Buckletrot and the rest of the wide receiving core. So you go on to the second round, 40th overall selection, linebacker out of BYU, Kyle Van Noy. And this is a guy that I had a joy watching film on. And I watched him way back in the process because I had my eye on him as a potential suitor to become a Washington Redskin. So I said, you know what? I want to check this guy out. I had heard people talking about Kyle Van Noy and what he could bring to the table and what his skill set was. And so I said, I'll check him out. And so pretty much had already done my homework on Kyle Van Noy going into this process. And I'm here to tell you that you got a really good football player in the second round. I mean, this is a guy that, to me, doesn't possess any elite traits, but he's really good at everything. Okay? So you know what that means. You know what that means. Pam Mon. Proficient at many. Master of none. And that's Kyle Van Noy in a nutshell. He'll drop into coverage. He'll blitz the quarterback. He'll play the run. He'll pick the pass off. And he'll do them equally well. But none of them great. And the thing for me when I look at Kyle Van Noy is he's not a quick-twitched athlete. So he's not a guy that's going to move around extremely fast. But I feel like he and this is a knock for some people, that he doesn't read and react and diagnose plays quickly. I beg to differ. I like to think that he does read and react. I like to think that he does anticipate plays. My problem with him is he just moves too slow. He's not a quick-twitched athlete, and I don't think that it's not because he doesn't see it and diagnose it. I just don't think he gets there fast enough. I don't think he's explosive as an athlete, and I don't think that he plays with a sense of urgency sometimes. There's times where a play runs away from him, and instead of him busting his tail to get to that play from the weak side, he'll just jog over and just like, okay, this play isn't going. He doesn't know if that running back is going to cut back or not. He doesn't know if that bubble screen to the other side of the field is going to end up coming his way. But he doesn't have the sense of urgency to get over there and get into the play sometimes. This is not every single snap. It's some of the time where you just see him kind of loafing out there. You're like, I need more of a sense of urgency from you. And so, for me, if he can go. Just when he sees something, just react, because you're already not as fast. You're not explosive. And he runs a solid 40 or 4.7 40 guy, so it's not like he's slow or anything like that. It's just that he's not explosive. And so he's not going to run through most ball carriers, but he'll get you on the ground. And so when he sees something, just go. And I need him to have a sense of urgency. He's one of these hurry up and wait type of guys where you're like, hey, hurry up, man, hurry up. And he's like, wait, I got this, but I just need to be patient and make sure that I'm making the right decision. So he sees run, and he knows that he has outside contain, but he can go and make a tackle for a 2-yard loss. He's going to play it safe, stay outside, do his job, but the run might end up getting 2 yards instead of being a 2-yard loss. Sometimes you got to just go and make a play. Other times you need to do your job. And so with Kyle Van Noy, I don't think he has a problem reading and reacting. I don't think he has a problem diagnosing plays. I just think he needs to be faster. Just go. You know, I don't think it's a problem of him seeing it and deciphering whether it's a pass or a run and getting into the backfield. And just be faster at everything that you do. I mean, have more of a sense of urgency. I need him to turn up that switch and get into fifth gear. I don't think he gets into fifth gear enough. Maybe he doesn't have a fifth gear. Maybe it only goes as far as fourth gear. And to me, he always plays in third gear. I want to see him play in fifth gear because he can rush the passer off the edge, and he needs to diversify his pass rushing moves, but that'll come in time. I'm not worried about that. But he can get to the quarterback, he can drop into coverage, and he can play the run. And I think he's a guy that, like I said, he does a lot of things well, just nothing great. And so in the second round, 40th overall selection, linebacker out of BYU, Kyle Van Noy for me is a 3-bagger. He's a triple. I really like this pick. It's a solid pick. But again, because he doesn't have any elite traits, I cannot allow him to knock this one out of the park. But it is a solid pick. Nonetheless, a guy that's going to start for you day one, come in, and going to give you production right off the bat. You move on to the third round, 76th overall selection, center out of Arkansas, Travis Swanson. Here's a guy that is a center and a center only. He can't play guard. He can't play tackle. He's just a center. So he has to be really good at what he does because the lack of versatility makes him expendable on a roster. But he's a third-round pick. He's not going anywhere. He's going to make your roster, and you're going to try to plug him in because Dominic Raiola can't play forever. And so it's a good pick. And I like what I saw on tape from him in a number of areas. There are some deficiencies. I'll get to those in a second. But let's talk about the strengths. And one, he's a smart guy. He calls out defenses, and he calls out the protection schemes. And so I like that. I like a guy that can control the game from the center position. I think a lot of people undervalue the center position and don't realize how big of a role a center plays in how well your offense functions as a unit. If the center isn't in sync with the quarterback and the offensive line isn't in the right protection schemes, things can break down in a hurry. And it's the center's job to make sure that everyone is on the same page. And I think Swanson does a wonderful job of that. Second of all, he played in the SEC against some top-notch talent each and every single week. So the guy is battle-tested. He was healthy, he didn't miss any games, and he was always there and dependable against some really good players. We know what the SEC does in terms of talent in the trenches, along the defensive line, and he had to go up against it week in, week out, and he did a really good job of that. So that's something to hang your hat on if you're a Detroit Lions fan. Another thing that he's really good at, he anchors well. Okay? There's not many times that I watched the tape that I saw him get bull rushed back into the lap of the quarterback, get blown up into the lap of the running back and disrupt the play. He didn't have a problem anchoring for me. He absorbs contact well. He's able to set his feet. Sometimes his base can get a little wide, and that can get him into trouble sometimes, and I'll talk about that in a second. But for the most part, he anchors well in the passing game, and he's hard to bull rush. So there's a clean pocket for the quarterback to work with, and that's what you want. As a team, as a quarterback, as an offense, you want a clean pocket from which to throw. And I think Swanson does a good job of anchoring, keeping a great base and allowing his quarterback to have space to deliver the football. Now let's get to some of the things that I do not like. One of the things that I don't like is that he athletically, he has functional movement, but that is it. I don't like when he pulls. I don't like when he can get to the second level. And he did get to the second level on a couple of plays that I saw and actually did a pretty good job. But I don't like when he's asked to move. A lot of the times when he's having to get to a guy and seal and get that reach block, I don't know if he's fast enough. This guy is always on the ground. And I'm like, why are you on the ground? I mean, there are too many instances, and normally it's in the running game, where he's on the ground. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? It's not like he's cutting somebody or if you're pancaking somebody, man, get on the ground, pour a little syrup up there. I'm all for it. If you're pancaking somebody, get on the ground. But this guy isn't pancaking anyone. He's not cut blocking anybody. He's just on the ground. He's falling down. He's trying to block somebody, and his base is too narrow, and his feet are getting tangled, and it's just sloppy. It's a lot of wasted motion on his part, and it's not productive. When you're on the ground, that means your guy isn't. That means that's another defender that's free, that's allowed to get to the ball carrier. And so that's something that he's got to tighten up on, because it seems like he's always on the ground. And I really don't like him out in space. He's not a guy with a nasty streak in the run game. Like I said, he anchors well in the passing game. But in the run game, I don't think he does enough. I think he's satisfied with just trying to get in the way of a defender. And in the run game, in the passing game, that's fine. I think just getting in someone's way and giving your quarterback enough time to get rid of the football, that's fine. In the run game, that's not adequate enough, because a lot of times you've got to have that extra oomph when you're run blocking. You've got to have that mean streak, because run blocking, and I say this all the time, much like rebounding in basketball, like playing defense in basketball, it's about want to. You got to want to run block, and you got to have a nasty streak when you're run blocking. You got to be able to move a guy against his will. And I just don't see that from Travis Swanson. Not enough. And so he is a guy that brings a lot of good things to the table, but there are some things that worry me about him. But I think he'll be fine in this Lions offensive attack. Again, I think he's better suited for a zone run blocking scheme than a power blocking scheme, because I just don't see him being a tough enough guy for that. And I know zone blocking scheme would require him to move, something that I don't think he does that well. But it also allows you to block a guy in a space. And I think he can handle blocking a guy in an area more so than actually having to get to a certain area and cut him off. In the zone run blocking scheme, you can cut a guy. If you can get in front of him, you can cut him. If you can just get in the way, you can get by in a zone run blocking scheme. In a power scheme, you got to devour guys. You got to maul guys, and I don't see Travis Swanson doing that. And so in the third round, 76th overall selection, center out of Arkansas, to me, Travis Swanson is a double. Really not that enamored with this guy. I think he brings a lot of good skill sets to the table, a lot of good attributes, just not blown away by what he brings to the table. And I got to knock him for the fact that he's not versatile, that he only can play one position along the offensive line. So you move on to the fourth round, 133rd overall selection, cornerback out of Utah State, Nevin Lawson. And I talked about this, I want to say a couple of videos ago, where I said, man, I've watched way too much Utah State tape. Way too much. Whether it's been evaluating Devontae Adams and the quarterback that the Raiders drafted, Derek Carr, playing against Utah State, or it's been me evaluating Mo Alexander, Nevin Lawson. I've just watched way too much Utah State tape. And Nevin Lawson, for me, is a guy that, with his stature at 5'9", you got to be able to compete, because Jason Verrett, 5'9", but he competes. And to me, the best corner in the draft is Jason Verrett. And So I look at Nevin Lawson, and like I said, I don't want to hear he's small, he's this, he's that. Tell me what the guy can do. And I'm here to tell you that I like what I see from Nevin Lawson. Now, this is the one knock on Nevin Lawson for me. And I think everybody, if you watch him, and some of the scouts and all the evaluators will tell you the same thing. He's a grabby guy. You know, trust your abilities. If Nevin Lawson were watching this video, I would tell him to trust your abilities. You're a very athletic corner with speed and the ability to keep up with just about any receiver in the National Football League. You can stay hip to hip with guys. You've got enough agility. You get in and out of breaks well. You flip your hips. You've got everything that you need to be in a position to make a play on the football. Trust your abilities. You don't have to grab. You don't have to reach. There's no need to panic. Find the football. If you can locate the football, you know where the receiver is. You're right next to him. You're hip to hip with him. You got your arm on him. You know where he is in relation to the football. Now you just got to find the football, man. You don't have to panic. You don't have to start grabbing and reaching and holding and hugging and tugging. They're going to pull the hanky out, man. Save yourself the trouble and just locate the football. You do that, you will be fine, man, because the tape tells it all. And you're normally right there in the play. I was really impressed with your tape. You're just too aggressive in terms of grabbing people. Stop grabbing folks. You're going to get flagged for that, man. And it's not necessary. And he actually held his own on the outsides a lot of times. Against Devontae Adams, I thought he had a really good showing against him. Okay? I thought he struggled a little bit against Marquise Lee, but he had his moments against Marquise Lee too. I thought he played well against USC and Marquise Lee. There were a couple of times where he had Marquise Lee on lock. You know, there were several plays where Marquise Lee got away and made some plays, but there was one play where he should have had an interception, had it in his hands, and dropped it at the last second. Another play where he rolled him off to the sideline and he was in perfect position. If he finds the football and he's not hugging a guy trying to keep pace and panicking because he doesn't know where the football is, this guy has the ability, and he can play the slot. And I think that's where the Lions are going to put him, because at 5'9", I don't know if they trust him to go outside. I don't have a problem with him showing up on the outsides sometimes, okay? Sometimes. But you don't want this guy on the outsides all the time. But I think he's versatile enough to go outside, play a few snaps out there, come into the slot where I think he's going to make his home in the National Football League. And I like his movement skills. And he doesn't have to be restricted to the boundary. He's still kind of raw. And I would love for him to just find the football more, but he's not afraid to tackle. I mean, he had one hit against Fresno State that was awesome. I mean, they tried to throw a bubble screen his way. He ran behind the blocker and absolutely mollywopped the receiver. And so he's not afraid to come up and support in the run game. He's not afraid to challenge receivers. And that's the thing I like the most, is that he has confidence in his abilities. The only thing that he doesn't have confidence in a lot of times is finding the football. Find the football, young man, and you will be a really good corner in this league. I like Nevin Lawson a lot. 4th round, 133rd pick overall, cornerback out of Utah State. Nevin Lawson, for me, is a triple. I like this young man. I like his talent. I like what he brings to the table. I like his versatility. I like a lot of the things that he has. I just want to see what the Lions are going to do with him, what positions are they going to put him in, and how are they going to get the most out of Nevin Lawson, and how are they going to coach this young man up and teach him how to be more consistent in finding and tracking the football. But I like him a lot, and I think there's something here. And so it's a triple for me. For Nevin Lawson in the 4th round out of Utah State, cornerback that I think has the ability to kick outside, but really his home is going to be in the slot in the National Football League. So you move on to the 4th round, the second pick for this Detroit Lions team in the 4th round, 136th overall selection, defensive end out of Bloomberg, Larry Webster. And this was a guy that caught my eye for the first time at the Combine. The times were off the charts at the Combine. And if not for Jadeveon Clowney, we might have been talking about this guy as potentially the most athletic defensive end in this draft. At 6'6", about 260, 65, maybe 70 pounds, 255 pounds, somewhere in there. He's a guy that reminds me, his body type reminds me of Andre Carter. a big, long, lanky. He's not as muscularly built, though. You know, Andre Carter was sculpted and continues to be sculpted to this day. I don't know if Larry Webster is at that point yet. I don't think he's sculpted that way. He could definitely do that because his body type says that he could become that kind of guy, but he's just a long, lanky athlete that doubled as a tight end at Bloomberg, played basketball as well. So, you know, people had the question, could this guy kick the tight end? Because he actually played tight end and defensive end. And I saw this guy catch a jump ball in one of the games at Bloomsburg, and I was like, wow, man, that's pretty impressive. I mean, he climbed the ladder, used that 6'6" frame to go up over the defender and pull down what I like to call a BFG, a ball fragment grab, where he just put his nutsack on the helmet of the defender, went up, got the football, and left the defender wiping his helmet off. I mean, sometimes you got to do that. When you got that kind of size, you got to put your balls on the helmet of the defender and go get the football. Sometimes you got to do it, and he did it. And I'm saying to myself, why can't this guy be a tight end? But when he was drafted by the Lions, Mike Mayock made mention of the fact that he was a tight end at Bloomsburg and that they ran him at the combine with the tight ends as well as the defensive ends as well as the linebackers. At his pro day, he did linebacker drills, he did defensive end drills, and he did tight end drills. So he was showing his versatility, showing that, hey, I can do multiple things. Whatever you draft me to be, I'll be that. Whatever you want me to be, I'll do it. Just give me an opportunity. And so I didn't know what the Lions had in mind, but obviously, with the Ebron pick, you knew what the Lions had in mind. But I still needed confirmation. I needed Martin Mayhew to tell me that we have him as a defensive end and we want him to be a defensive end. And that's what Martin Mayhew did in his post-draft press conference. He said, hey, we drafted this guy to be a defensive end. We look for him to play the wide side of the field, and that's what we're going to do. So, excellent. That's what I needed to know. I needed clarification. I got it. So let's talk about Larry Webster. This is a big guy. Talked about his size already. He's 6'6", can run 4.5, 840 if I'm not mistaken. So the he's a blazer. He can run. On tape, I didn't really see that speed per se. I didn't see that kind of explosion, but it's there. Yeah, absolutely. And so what I want to see from him is, and he's raw. And let's face it, this guy is raw. He's got a lot to learn. He's got a lot of things. And there's not a lot of tape. There's really not a lot of quality tape on this guy. And so there's a lot to be done here. In the little bit of film that I was able to gather on this guy, I see a lot of holes in his game, but not because the ability isn't there. It's just lack of coaching, lack of experience. Hasn't played that position a lot. Doesn't have the experience there. Hasn't been coached up the way that you would want him to be. And so I look at this guy as a big slab of clay. And he performed well at Bloomsburg. Don't let me sit here and talk to you as if this guy doesn't have production. You don't get drafted out of Bloomsburg without production, okay? Guy had 13.5 sacks last year, so he's getting to the quarterback. He just has to refine his game, though, because the stuff he got away playing in the Pennsylvania Athletic Association or whatever that conference was, really tiny, small conference in Pennsylvania, you're not going to get away with a lot of that stuff in the National Football League. He's going to have to put together a repertoire that sees him use power that comes from speed. So translate speed to power. If you're a 4 or 5, 8 guy, I need to see it, and I need you to convert that speed to power. He doesn't know how to do that yet. He needs to get a counter move off of the speed. So it'd be nice to see him go hard outside, back inside. It'd be nice to see him develop a spin or something like that. Come up with some moves that's going to help you get to the quarterback. How about a really nasty bull rush? Those all help. And so he's got to find different ways to get to the quarterback. I'd like to see him be stronger at the point of attack in the run game. But again, these are all things that he will learn at the next level. He's a big slab of clay. Here you go, Detroit Lions. Mold him properly, and you could have yourself a bookend on one side and another one in Ezekiel Ziggy Ansah, and you could have 2 double-digit sack getters in 3 years. But if you don't figure out how to use this guy and you don't get him to get all of that potential out, then he'll just be a 4th-round pick that hangs around for 3 or 4 seasons and then isn't on your roster after his rookie contract is up. So I think Larry Webster has tremendous potential, but you just got to get it out of him. You got to mold this guy and teach him how to play football. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know. He really doesn't know. And so in the 4th round, 136th overall selection, defensive end out of Bloomsburg, Larry Webster for me is a double because the potential is there. The production in college was there. But I don't even know if defensive end is this man's best position. I'm not sure. And so I need the Lions to coach this guy up and get the most out of him. We'll see if they're able to do that. 5th round, 158th overall selection, defensive tackle out of Princeton, Karan Reed. Now this guy here is interesting because he's at an Ivy League school at Princeton, and you're thinking, okay, he's at Princeton, and what could this guy do? I mean, really, what does this guy bring to the table? And I tell you what, watching the tape on this guy, I'm not going to lie to you, a little intrigued. I'm a little impressed because you watch him, and if you were to take off, you know, the names of the schools, and you take off the helmet and the jersey, and you slap a LSU jersey on this guy, you slap a Georgia jersey on this guy, you slap a Alabama jersey on this guy, he would fit right in the SEC. I mean, honestly speaking, I mean, if I were to cover your eyes and just let you listen to what this guy is doing and then display to you what you've been listening to, you would not have believed that you were listening to a guy that was balling out of control at Princeton. I mean, this guy is so talented, it's not even funny. He just needs to be coached up. And if he can learn how to harness all of the different skill sets that he possesses, because I think the attributes that he brings to the table are fascinating. I mean, I was floored at his athleticism to begin with. I mean, his quickness off the ball and getting to the ball, you know, kind of treading down the line and getting involved in plays that go away from him, and his ability to sort through the garbage, make his way down the line, uncanny. His ability to knife into the backfield, get to the quarterback. I was impressed. I was amazed. It was funny because watching one of the games, one of the commentators doing the game said, this guy, Karan Reed, has no business in the Ivy League. This guy should be in the SEC somewhere. And if not for him being as smart as he is, he probably would have ended up in the SEC. But because the guy is really intelligent, I mean, you can't just be anybody and get into Princeton. We know that. So because the guy was so intelligent, so intellectually stimulated, he ends up at Princeton. But his football skill set says he should be at LSU. He should be at Georgia. He should be at Alabama. He should be at Auburn. You know, at one of these premier powerhouse schools in the SEC, terrorizing quarterbacks and getting his name on the map. I assure you, if this guy is in the SEC, he's a 2nd-round pick, not a 4th-round pick. The lack of exposure is why this guy is in the 4th round. But I'll tell you what, make no mistake about it. This guy, Karan Reed, can play football. And I'm most impressed by the motor, the quickness, and at times he can translate speed to power, because there's a play where he bull rushes a guard in the end zone and tackles a running back like 5 or 6 yards into the end zone for a safety. Now, granted, it was Brown University that he was playing against, and they ran a draw in the end zone. Who runs a draw 6 yards deep into the end zone? I mean, that's the worst play you could call. I don't understand it, but it doesn't matter. He made the play, and he destroyed Brown on the tape that I watched. And you could argue that level of competition wasn't great in the Ivy League, but again, there's never mistaken talent when you see it. I mean, like I said, this guy is fast in the SEC. This guy is fast in the Pac-12, Big Ten. His speed transcends conferences. So it doesn't matter that he plays in the Ivy League. He dominated the competition there, which shows that he can go in the SEC, and I feel like his speed, his athleticism, his agility all would translate there, and he'd fit right in. So in the 5th round, 158th overall selection, defensive tackle out of Princeton for me, Karan Reed, I really feel like can come in And if you're not sold on your defensive tackles, if you don't want to pay Ndamukong Suh all the money that he's looking for, if Nick Fairley's work ethic isn't to your liking and the new staff comes in and they're not feeling Nick Fairley and they say, hey, take a walk, go get your money from somebody else, I feel like in 2 years this guy's going to be ready to be a force, to start along this defensive line and to really contribute. I really feel like he's going to play and really help, because I think he was in a 3-4 defense at Princeton. If I recollect correctly, they played a 3-4 defense, so he was kind of misplaced a bit. And he'll get to a place where he's playing a 3 technique and he'll be more comfortable in the NFL as a Detroit Lion. I think he's a triple, man. I mean, I'm really feeling this guy. He's a 3-bagger for me. I think the potential, I think the fact that he went to Princeton, people are sleeping on this guy. He's going to wake some folks up. And he might even do it as early as his rookie season. I think not only is he going to make this roster, but I think he's going to be a contributor in 2014. And I think he'll be a starter in 2015. You heard it here first. So we move on to the 6th round, 189th overall selection, wide receiver out of Notre Dame, T.J. Jones. And again, Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan. All right, I admit it. So I know T.J. Jones. You're getting a good football player here. Think Nate Burleson, but faster, okay? So think Nate Burleson. You got the late stages of the career, Nate Burleson, a guy that was more of a possession receiver. He could stretch the field a bit, but Nate Burleson was okay. T.J. Jones is a younger version, a guy that's much more athletic. Do you want him playing outside? Probably not, because his frame indicates that he should be in the slot. I mean, this is a 6'1", $188 type of guy. You know, he could stand to gain 10 or 15 pounds. Will he? I doubt it. I mean, even when he gets into this NFL weight training program, I still don't think he's putting on that kind of weight. He might gain 7 pounds and get to about $195. If he does that, I'll be ecstatic, because he can definitely put on some weight, but the guy is a technician. He runs really good routes, can catch the football, can snatch it out of the air. He's quick and he's fast. And I think in the slot is where he's going to make his living in this league. And I think he'll be really good at it. And I think he's going to win a lot of one-on-one matchups. He can stretch the defense. You can't just play him as a guy that's going to run a lot of routes close within, 10, 12 yards of the line of scrimmage, because he'll take it up the seam on you. He can run the corner route. He can run the whole route tree. He did it at Notre Dame. I think he's a guy with a lot of upside. And with Calvin Johnson on one side and now Eric Ebron working the middle of the field, I think that's just going to open up things for a guy like T.J. Jones immediately. And you got Durham and some other guys that you can get the football to as well. I really feel like T.J. Jones. And yeah, you went and got Golden Tate as well. And I think Golden Tate is a guy that you envision being in your slot. But Golden Tate can also play out wide. And so I don't know what you envision T.J. Jones being, but he's going to make this team and he's going to contribute right away. And you're really revamping this wide receiver core, because you got Tate, you got Heavens to Megatron, you got Eric Ebron, you add T.J. Jones to the mix, you got Durham. You've got a plethora of targets for Matthew Stafford to get the football to. And T.J. Jones is a guy that, like I said, I feel like he's going to be better served playing in the slot. But if you want Golden Tate in the slot, this guy can kick outside. He played outside at Notre Dame. He's not a number 1 receiver. You're not going to ask him to be a number 1 receiver. He can be a number 2. He can be a number 3. I think he's better off being a 3rd option than a 2nd. But we'll see. I mean, this guy is going to find a home in Detroit somewhere, whether it's out wide at receiver in the slot, or it's a guy that's 2nd in the totem pole, or it's a guy that's in the slot as a 3rd receiver, or in the other slot as a 4th receiver. Wherever he is, he'll make plays. He can give you some extra added value on special teams. He was a punt returner at Notre Dame. So if you need him in that capacity, he can serve there as well. So you get a lot out of T.J. Jones in the 6th round, 189th overall selection, wide receiver out of Notre Dame. For me, it's a solid double in the 6th round. He's going to come in and help your football team in a number of ways. And so I think that's a solid pickup for the Detroit Lions. And then you wrap up the draft in the 7th round, 229th overall selection, kicker out of Boston College, Nate Freese. I'm never a fan. Okay, never is a strong word. That's like using the word hate. Too strong of a word. So I won't say never. I'm usually not a big fan of drafting a kicker. There's always something else you could draft other than a kicker. I always feel like kickers will be around as undrafted rookie free agents that you can sign after the draft is over. You know, teams aren't beating down the door of kickers normally in the draft, and so you might get 3 or 4 teams that decide to draft a kicker or punter. But for the most part, most teams are going to wait until after the draft is over to try and sign a kicker or a punter. And I am guilty of being in that train of thought. I'd much rather get a kicker after the draft is done. Now, if there is a surefire, can't-miss prospect as a kicker and you desperately need one, let's say you lose 3 games because your field goal kicker couldn't put it through the uprights. Maybe he went 2 out of 4 in one game and you lose the game by 4 points. He missed 2 field goals. That would have been 6 points. You would have won the game. Say he missed another 2 game winners and you ended up cutting him and going through a slew of kickers, and that was the end-all, be-all of your season. You end up missing the postseason by 2 games. If you had a good field goal kicker, you would have been in the postseason. I get that. And you see a guy, Lou Groza, award winner, he's booming them from 54, and he's a can't-miss prospect. And I say you pull the trigger on him at some point in the draft, but a guy like Nate Freese, who's just another kicker, yeah, sure. One of 2 kickers in all of FBS last year that didn't miss a field goal the entire season with, 10 kicks being the minimum. Excellent. That's great. However, I need one of 2 things or both from my field goal kickers if I'm going to draft one, okay? 1, I either need you to get better. I need to see progression as your career moves along. So maybe you come in your rookie season, you're a little nervous, you miss a couple of kicks. Let's say you're 17 of 20 in your rookie season. Okay. 17 of 22. Let's say you're 17 of 22. Fine. You missed 5 kicks. That's a terrible percentage, but you're growing. You're learning. You were put in some pressure situations. You struggled a bit. The next year, you go 19 of 21. Excellent. The next year, you're 24 of 26. Great. That's even better. You kicked more. You made more. The next and final season in college, you go 27 of 28, including 3 or 4 from plus 50. That's what I want to see. That's progression from year to year to year. And now you're at your apex as a kicker. You figured it out. You're not nervous. The big kick doesn't scare you. I'll take that guy. That's one. The second thing that I either need to see or both of them in conjunction with each other is consistency. I don't want the kicker that comes onto the scene in his freshman year and is 27 of 27, including 4 of 4 from 50, and the guy looks like a surefire, All-American kicker. And then the next year he comes in and he's 23 of 30, and he goes on a 4, kick missing streak throughout the course of the season, and he's lost his confidence, and you're wondering, can I put this guy on the field for a 42-yard field goal? Is he going to shank it? I don't want that guy. I don't want the guy where his confidence is wavering all over the place, and one year to the next he's good, the next year he's bad. Give me the guy that's consistent. I'll take the kicker that's 17 of 20, 23 of 26, 20 of 23, and 24 of 27 every year of his career. And he missed 3 kicks every year, and 2 of them were plus 50 and in bad conditions. But I know the guy is money from, because in the league, honestly speaking, your money distance is 40 to 49 yards. That's where you're going to kick the majority of your field goals. 40 to 49 and 30 to 39. That's where I need you to be all but perfect. I need you to basically knock them all home. The 50 to 59 is where you're going to miss a couple of kicks, and that's to be expected. I mean, the great ones, they knock most of those down, but they're going to miss 1 or 2 from 54, 55, 56, 53. Yeah, you're not going to knock them all down, but I need you to make the kicks you're supposed to make. And Nate Freese had some issues with making kicks he was supposed to make. I didn't get the consistency. He burst onto the scene as a freshman. It was an All-American and this, that, and the third, and then had some struggles, lost some confidence, then regained it. Those are the guys I'm not really that enamored with. But he didn't miss a kick last year, so maybe he's starting to get where he needs to be. He's a guy that could improve your kickoff game, has a strong leg and strong enough to do that. So it's a solid pick in the 7th round. 229th overall kicker out of Boston College for me. He's a single, though. He's a kicker. I mean, I don't know what else you want me to say. He's not Jason Hanson, right? So, I mean, he's a single. I mean, I don't know what else you want from me. He's a kicker, all right? So, that's the Lions draft. You recap it. We got 8 picks in all. Ebron, home run, no doubt about that one. Kyle Van Noy, he's a triple. I really like him. Travis Swanson, he's a double. Can't do anything else other than play center, so he's got to work out there. Nevin Lawson for me, a lot of potential. Stop being grabby. Trust your instincts. Locate the football. He's a triple. Larry Webster, just simply not enough tape, but all the raw athletic attributes are present. Everything that is necessary for this guy to play at an extremely high level in the National Football League is there. So off of potential alone and production at college, it's a double. But I still need to see what is actually going to transpire and what will manifest of Larry Webster. He's a double. Karan Reed is a triple out of Princeton. I'm thoroughly impressed with this guy. I feel like of all of these guys, 4th round and down, to me, he's the one that's going to stand out the most in my mind in the next 2 or 3 seasons. He's going to shine out of the bottom half of this draft. T.J. Jones, wide receiver out of Notre Dame, a really good receiver. He learned how to be a receiver. In the last 2 years, I think he grew up as a receiver. I think early on, I think he relied on raw ability and less about route running and timing and precision and really honing in on his craft. I think the last couple of years, he learned how to gain and create separation through route running, and he kind of highlighted his strengths over the last couple of years. He's a double. And then in the 7th round, kicker Nate Freeze out of Boston College. He's a single. I don't really know what more you want me to say about that. So home run, that's 4. Triple, that's 7. Double, 9. Triple, 12. Double, 14. Triple, that is 17. 19, 20. Let me count that again, because I felt like I was doing some real 2nd grade math right there. I felt like I kind of went back and I was doing some real faulty math. So let's do that again. Home run, 4. Triple, that's 7. Double, that's 9. Triple, that's 12. Double, that's 14. Triple, that's 17. 9. Okay, I was right. It was 20. I had to make sure. I had to double check. And because of 1, 2, 3 triples, you get a triple bonus. So let's add another 3 to that total, make it 23. You got 1, 2, 3 doubles, so you get a doubles bonus. Let's add another double to that. That takes us up to 25. You divide it by 8, and the Lions find their way into a triple. And it's a solid draft. And to me, it's a draft off of potential. And so it's a triple, but let's be more specific. It's a 3.1 triple. So it's a 3.1 triple for the Detroit Lions. They barely creeped over that mark in our new baseball grading scale, but it's a triple nonetheless. It's a really solid draft top to bottom, with the only single really being Nate Freeze, kicker in the 7th round out of Boston College. I mean, you look at what they did in the core of this draft, I'd say they did well for themselves. There's a lot of things to like here. And I honestly look at this draft and I say, who's not making the roster here? I mean, which one of these guys isn't going to be a Detroit Lion? Can you find one? Because I can't. Ebron, Easy E's going to make the roster. Van Noy, book it. Swanson, yes, sir. Lawson, yep. They needed help in that secondary. He's going to help. Webster, he's a project. And they're excited about working with this guy. He's going to be around. Karan Reed, I think he's going to be the best. You know how I feel about Reed. I think he's going to be the best of these guys, 4th round and down. So he's going to make this roster. T.J. Jones, you can always use more weapons in Detroit. At times, it seems like heavens to Megatron is the only option. You're not getting rid of a guy like T.J. Jones. And Nate Freeze, he might be the odd man out. If he didn't come in and kick the football and do all the things that the Lions expect out of him, he could lose his job in camp. He could come in and get beat out by somebody, but right now, I don't see anybody missing out on the roster. Only Nate Freeze to me is going to be a legitimate candidate to miss out on the roster. So there you have it. Lions end up with a triple in the 2014 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. So if it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Thank you for joining me. There's only one question that remains. Who's next?
Draft zone.
Like the content? Want more? Sub up.